So nice to see everybody. It is 8 o'clock on a Thursday night, which means we are so happy to welcome everybody once again around our virtual Shabbos table. So good to see everybody. We hope you had a good week. Hope you're getting ready for a beautiful Shabbos. Wow, so nice to see all of you. Some of you in more comfy positions than others, but so yeah, that's right. Look at that. Wow, yes, great to see everybody. Hope everybody is doing well. Hope everybody is safe. Hope everybody is happy. Hope everybody is feeling good and strong. It is, as we do each week, remind you all just how much we miss seeing everybody in person. And while we've had so many nice opportunities to meet with people socially distant and safe, but it's not the same as being able to have Shabbos meals together and having Yom Tov meals together, but in particular, our Shabbos, around our Shabbos table, inside our Shabbos table, is now consumed with, one of our children, all of our children who are still on Zoom have themselves located at various parts of the house. And our Shabbos table is the office of one of our children. So
it's the fifth grade classroom.
Yes, it's the fifth grade classroom. And all that means is it is the constant weekly reminder that he's got to clean up before we're able to get the Shabbos table set, getting ready for the beautiful Shabbos. The Shulchan Shabbos, as Chazal tells us, is the Mizbeach, is the altar, really, actually. And in fact, what makes the Shabbos table unique from the weekday table, like, is it bread or is it challah? Is it wine or is it kiddush? What makes the Shabbos table a Shabbos table? And the fact that it's a Shabbos table is really indicated by virtue of the fact that it's called the Mizbeach. It's an altar. It is a place that we have a spiritual experience, whereas on a Tuesday night or a Thursday night, you can have math homework, or you can have dinner, which, sometimes a little bit more organized depending on your household, depending on your lifestyle, depending on the stages of your children, your families, if you're empty nesters or otherwise. So it depends on what your circumstance. But Friday night and Shabbos is Shabbos. It's the Shulchan Shabbos, and the Mizbeach, the fact that it's an altar, really represents what we're supposed to do with the Shulchan Shabbos. We're supposed to do with the Shabbos table. And the Shabbos table, in that sense, is really supposed to be an elevating experience, whether it's saying Divrei Torah, singing beautiful songs, sharing meaningful conversation, having times to enjoy, to laugh, to just share. I don't know about you, the Friday night Shabbos meals in our home, and certainly when we share with all of you, but in our home, in our family, is the time where the busyness, the thunderous, wildness of the week comes to a screeching halt. And even though people ask me, Rabbi, you work on Shabbos, right? You're not supposed to work on Shabbos. I say, I don't work on Shabbos. I get to teach Torah on Shabbos. So it's busy, but it's not work. It's enjoyable. Shabbos is that quintessential time of peace, tranquility, harmony, blessing, bracha, children, family, meaningful conversation, delicious foods, delectables, so on and so forth. So we're so happy to have a night together shared with you with meaningful, hopefully, conversation, some joyous time. Open it up a little bit tonight, some questions, some conversation, some fun together. But let's begin tonight, if we can, just by sharing just some of the extraordinary kind of introduction to the parsha that we learn this week, which is always the way that we like to start our Shabbos, around our Shabbos conversation, our Shabbos table conversation. Again, noting that to speak words of Torah, to be uplifted, to be inspired, is really what makes the Shulchan Shabbos a Shabbos table, with all of the treats and the delights and the guests. But it's the Shabbos table that's uplifted and elevated with Divrei Torah. So our parsha this week is Parshas Vayishlach. Vayishlach Malachim Lefanov, that Yaakov Avinu, Jacob, our forefather, spends 22 years in the house of Lavan and Laban. Who's Laban? That's right. Hal, Chaim Laban. You get an extra piece of kugel for that's right. That Laban, he actually has two titles. What are his two titles? Title number one is he is Uncle Laban, Uncle Lavan, because it's his mother's brother. And it's also his father-in-law, right? Because he marries the daughters, of course, Leah and Rachel. Rachel and Leah, those are his wives. So after 22 years of servitude, of being deceived, being duped, being, tricked time and time again. In fact, you remember at the end of last week's parsha, we learned that he said, you changed my wages so many times by the heat of the sun, by the scorching burn, by the incredible, frost of the wintry nights. I worked for you faithful and loyal. And now is the great encounter after so many years of servitude And now he comes back after running from his brother. Now he's going to encounter his brother. I don't know about you, but I always find myself at the edge of my seat, not just because I'm a rabbi. You think I should be at the edge of my seat, but I'm always at the edge of my seat, even though I know how the story is going to play itself out. It plays itself out because now Vayishlach Malachim, that Yaakov Avinu, he sends Malachim, he sends angels to experience what's going to be this extraordinary encounter. He has anxiousness, katonti mikol hachasodim. I feel diminished because all of the chesed, because all of the goodness, all of that which has been righteously upon me. And now this encounter. So this encounter is extraordinary. It's not just it's extraordinary because of how he prepares. Rashi, of course, famously tells us that he prepares through tefillah, prepares by getting militarily correct, right? He separates the camp. He gets himself davening. He's ready. We all know that we turn to davening, we turn to prayer, we turn to the Ribono Shalom in such a situation. But then here he has this moment, this pause. Here's this pause. He sends the gifts. He sets himself. He's ready. And then there's like a commercial little break, lahavdil. Whenever I say that there's a commercial break to one of my brother-in-laws, he says, nah, commercial break. There's no commercial breaks in the Torah. But here's a commercial break. What's the commercial break? So all of a sudden it seems as if, there's this little field trip, private rendezvous in the middle of the night field trip. Yaakov Avinu, he leaves pachim ketanim, small miniature, minor, small flasks, kalim, vessels on the other side of the Jabbok, wherever that little stream is, wherever that river is. And he goes, and Chazal, the rabbis tell us that we realize and recognize how significant, how important, how precious even small things, even though we tend to give focus to the big things, it's the little things. And Yaakov Avinu, v'yevaser Yaakov levado. And Jacob, he's left alone. And it's being left alone that gives us pause and gives us a little bit of reflection. It gives us reflection because what does it mean he's left alone? There's a difference between feeling loneliness, and being alone. What does it mean to be alone? He was left alone, levado. Levado is a very powerful word in Chazal. Alone and loneliness, levado means ein od milvado, that he was alone. God is one and singular and alone. He was alone with God. And then he has this almost like the first, if you do a little bit of around the Shabbos table trivia mania, what was the first WrestleMania in the history of WrestleMania? Come on, in the 1990s. WrestleMania. Come on, Matthew, Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, Jimmy Superfly Snuka, right? So what's the first WrestleMania in the history of WrestleManias? Of course, Vayivaser Yaakov Levado, Avek Ish Imo. He's wrestling. That's the word in the Torah. He's Avek. He's wrestling. He's wrestling with the Saro Shel Esav. Thank you, Mom. He's wrestling with the Saro Shel Esav. And now this all becomes a different story. No longer will you be called Jacob, but now you will be called Yisrael. And interestingly, now it's not that like Avram, it becomes Avraham, and it's now a new name completely. Now it's a choice name, right? There's options here. We have two different choices. We have Yaakov and we have Yisrael. Why is it that we have both of them? That's not for now. That's maybe another around the Shabbos table. But this encounter is an encounter that's extraordinary. It's an extraordinary encounter because here he wrestles. He's not going to let him go. There's going to be a name change. You've struggled with the divine. You have been injured in the process, but the sun shines and you're able to be triumphant. I think of beloved Mayor Rappaport, who is with us tonight. And I think about triumph over tragedy, difficulty to be able to muster the strength over the struggle with the antagonizer of good, and to be able to reconcile and to recognize what is levado, what it means to be alone, what it means to be singular with God, what it means to be able to have meaning and purpose, what it means to be able to have a kind of a duality to your existence. You're Yaakov, you're Jacob, you're Yisrael, you're Israel, and you have this extraordinary encounter. And I don't know about you, but with all that anxiety getting ready for the beginning of the parsha, then it has like a pretty happy ending, right? It's peaceful. There's no warring. There is no machlokes. Esav goes to the left. Yaakov goes to the right. And even though Esav tries to convince him that you should come along with me, he says, no, the children attend to the flocks are heavy. There's too much burden. Let's just go our separate ways. And here is the Torah of the encounter, the extraordinary encounter, the encounter that literally changes your life completely. So I was just thinking about that a little bit. When thinking about, all of us have had encounters in our lives. All of us have had cataclysmic encounters that have brought us in the company of people that changed our lives. We've changed their lives, that have had influence and continue to have influence. Encounters are not necessarily singular one-time encounters, but there are one-time encounters that are life-changing. So maybe it'd be a good way for us to think about some of the encounters that have changed our lives, that almost like renames us and reshapes us, redirects us, that repositions us, that puts us in a place that maybe we were thinking things would go one way and now eventually they go another thing. It's the person you met, it's the teacher you had, it's the mentor who is it? What is it? The encounter that you had going around our Shabbos table, and this now transition to a little bit of something a little bit more informal. If you could share, I guess the first transition is to the host around the Shabbos table. That was just a long-winded introduction.
No, that was perfect.
Tell me, Jen, an encounter changes your life.
I have an encounter. It's funny. Last night I called my 12th grade rabbi to ask him a question about the class that I was giving last night. I still am in touch with my 12th grade rabbi who was under our chuppah and addressed us together as a chassan and kala. And to this day, he's come to all of our simchas and we are extremely close with him. And he was giving me an answer to my question. And he started his answer off with the words, Bereshis bara Elokim. And he taught me in 12th grade, the Parsha of Bereshis. And somehow over the years, we always go back. Whenever I ask like a deep philosophical question, sometimes I call him with the kids to ask like some of their very hard questions. He always goes back to Bereshis, and it's so ironic because he taught me Bereshis, and that's when we really connected, and that's when I was very inspired by him, and I learned it in a way, and he opened my eyes to a whole new world. And that encounter in 12th grade, 1,000,000% has changed my life, and continues to change my life, and I think changes our family's life and our children's life. And it's really, really a bracha. It's really, really amazing, and I'm so grateful for that encounter.
That's very special. That's very special.
And not only that, but it always goes back to Bereshis. And even when he spoke under our chuppah, he brought up something under the chuppah that we learned in Bereshis, and it always connects to whatever's going on in my life, what we learned in Bereshis. It's amazing.
Is that the flower?
The flower, yes. We have it on video.
What was it?
He spoke about how how everything is divine providence, and that the flowers that I was holding, and the cotton or the silk that was in my dress, the moment that it was starting to grow in the field, it was destined to become my flower at my wedding. It was destined to be the yarn that was going to be in my wedding dress, and how divine providence plays a role in every single minutia of our lives. It was quite beautiful.
That's special. Yeah, I remember that.
And if I'm just going to keep going, but the last day of our 12th grade class, and don't forget, we were like very, I don't know, somewhat disconnected high school girls, like ready to graduate and have fun. And he was this Rav that was so angelic. He brought us all a rose the last day of class. He put a rose on everyone's desk and taught us this lesson about the rose, and that when this rose, and then he brought up the rose again at my wedding. It was very, very special.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. There are so many encounters, whether they're ones from a teacher or just even like an experience that, is also, life-changing, that you realize how much you carry and how much responsibility you have, how much an
impact you can make.
Right. And how much an impact you can make, and how much of an impact like we as a people make, and how much of an impact, we have to realize that we make. And sometimes I think that, in some conversations I had today, just realizing how circular, how influential, how necessary it is for us to realize what kind of power words have, what kind of things we do, what kind of impact it is. I just remember, a number of years ago, and there's the teachers, there's the influencers, there's of course, the mentors. But I remember a number of years ago, there's another encounter that I had, and this is actually, there were like two parts of this encounter. The first part of this encounter is that I was, I'm maybe a little embarrassed to share this, but I was in the 5 towns. For those of you representing the 5 towns on this call, Chaskol, it's good to see you. That's your summer visitation, your winter visitation time. You're visiting there until you get back home to Boca Raton. I was once driving on Rockaway Boulevard, Rockaway Turnpike. Rockaway Turnpike. Does that still exist? Rockaway Turnpike? It still does? It's still there? Okay. So it was like on a Motzei Shabbos, and I was out with some of my chevra, and I was driving a little bit. I didn't think I was driving too fast, but I guess the sweet little police officer thought I was. Maybe he had nothing else to do, but pulls me over and he gives me a ticket, gives me a scare. My heart was thumping. When I think about it, my heart's thumping a little faster even right at this minute. Not so much because I got a ticket for speeding, but because I had to tell my dad that I got a ticket for speeding. That was like terrifying more than anything. So I remember when I came home and I had this face, and my dad, like he could sniff it. He knew that there was something, and I was like terrified. And I don't know, I was thinking about, should I run away? Should I not run away? Fine, should I tell him? I told him. And he said to me, okay, it'll be a good experience. No problem. It happens to everybody. Fight the ticket. I said, fight the ticket? What am I going to fight the ticket? He says, fight the ticket. There's insurance points. You'll just go and you'll see. It'll be a good experience. Maybe, just how the bureaucracy, how government works, that could be for a conversation for another time. So I remember the court date was set. I got like all this official document. I was like 10 miles over the speed limit. I mean, mind you. And 10 miles over the speed limit. And this date, I remember it was in the season of Parshas, it was Parshas Miketz. It was like around Shabbos Chanukah this time, because I was being Marva the Cedras in Lower Manhattan. I went to this godforsaken courthouse, and I remember they're calling like all these like criminals and wild maniacs. And I'm like in yarmulke and a suit and a tie, and I was like, I didn't belong there. I just didn't feel right. I didn't feel right. And I remember they call out the state of New York versus Jacob Gibber. I'm like, are you serious? It's like that serious? Like the whole state is against me? Like really? Like, can I get like Ben Brofman in here for this? Like what is happening? I just was like 10 little itsy bitsy miles, right? Everybody goes a little bit over. So I was heart thumping. I walk up there. And I also, like my friends, my chaverim told me that sometimes what happens is that maybe the police officer doesn't show up. So if the police officer doesn't show up, there's all types of rules. I don't know. Maybe they drop it. Maybe the insurance. I have no idea. New York State versus Jacob Gibber. I get up there. The judge says to me, "How do you plead?" And the judge, and of course the police officer comes in slow motion out of the side. And I'm standing there shaking and trembling. "How do you plead, Jacob Gibber?" So I said, Your Honor, I'm guilty. So she said, "What? What'd you say? One more time. What was that?" She said, "How do you plead?" I said, I'm guilty. So she said, "So why are you here? So if you're guilty, just pay the fine, and why are you here?" So I said, actually, to be honest with you, I'm holding a Bible. I was holding like one of these small stone blue chumashim. I knew at that moment, I was like, maybe I should go into the rabbinate. This is going to work out great. So I was holding like a blue stone chumash. And I said, actually, in my Bible, one of the 10 commandments is honor your father and mother.
Oh my God.
And my father said I should come do this. And I don't know, I'm guilty. In fact, this officer, he needs a raise. He did a great job. This guy like wanted to give me a big hug. I was like, this guy needs a hug, needs a raise. It was awesome. She said, "Are you serious?" I said, "Yeah, that's what I have to do. I'm down in this forsaken joint, which I can't believe you spend all day here." She said, "I'm going to count to 15, and you're going to turn around and you're going to leave as fast as possible before I change my mind." Yeah, you know the story.
She didn't count to 15?
Yeah, she said maybe 20. She said, "Count to 15. She said, "I'm going to give you a parking ticket. No points. You're not going to get the $180, whatever the ticket was. You get a small $25 parking ticket, turn around, leave before. This is an experience I have not had in a very long time." I was like, "Really?" She says, 10. 9. She starts counting. I'm like, Peace out. See you later. I give like a fist bump or a high five to the officer. I said, I hope I never see you again unless you want to join my tribe, unless you want to come to my congregation the 1 year down the road. And that was it. So that was this encounter. Fast forward. This is part 2 of this encounter. And then I want to hear from you so you can start getting your wheels turning. Get your encounters ready. It was a number of years later, and I was on JetBlue. Now, let's be honest. We all love JetBlue for really one reason and one reason only. And it's not because of the blue chips. Anybody remember JetBlue? Like that's an airline, and we go airplanes, right? Some of you were just on airplanes recently. JetBlue, it's because of the TV screens, right? You remember, like my son took a flight, on a Southwest flight. He's like, Tati, there's no TV screens. Like, how are you supposed to sit for 2 hours? I'm like, well, that's like, how it used to be. So I thought there used to be horse-drawn carriages. I'm like, no. There were airplanes without TVs. So we all love the TVs, right? You're watching. And I remember, it's not worth reminding myself of the scandal. No. It's not worth reminding myself of the scandal, but I remember I was sitting towards the front of the plane, and I went to use the men's room, the bathroom, and I was all the way in the back of the plane. For whatever reason, I needed to go to the back of the plane. And I got to the back of the plane, and there was a scandal that just broke out in the Jewish world about unfaithful practices in businesses, and there were people that looked like me with beards and yarmulkes, and they were in handcuffs, and there was this big scheme and this big finding and this uncovering, and there was a governor involved and elected officials involved, and there was like a whole host of just like lots of people that looked like me. And I remember I was like in the back of the airplane. I had just come out of the bathroom. My seat was like in row 3. And I was thinking, and I look at all the TV screens, and if they were only watching like a Yankee game, that would have been fine. But for some reason, it looked like they were all watching the same screen. No matter what news station, it was CNN, it was Fox News, it was NBC, ABC, they're all watching the same breaking news broadcast of this terrible story of people that look like me, that are being carried away in handcuffs because they acted unfaithfully, dishonestly. They were tried, and many of them were found to be guilty. And everybody was walking. I had one dilemma right there.
How am I going
to get to my seat? There was still like good hour 45 left on my trip back to or from New York. I don't remember exactly. And I was thinking, like, how am I going to get to my seat? There's no way I can like quickly shave my beard, dye my hair, put on a 3-button tee. I didn't know what to do. And the only thing that I was thinking about how I'm going to get to my seat is that if only I had only hoped that judge was on that plane. Now, it would have been an amazing story, like super amazing story. Like the clients would have popped some popcorn right now. If I say that the judge was on that plane, that'd be sick, awesome, amazing. That'd be amazing. The judge wasn't on the plane, at least that I don't know. Maybe she was. No, I don't think so. But the point of the whole story is that, we have to take responsibility for our actions. We have to take responsibility for the things that we do, the encounters that we have, and the impressions that they leave on people when we do the right thing and we do things that are meaningful and sometimes even unexplained, inexplicable, that it's lifnim reshuas hadin. It leaves an impression on people that when there are unfaithful practices and when there are things that maybe sometimes shine a negative light and focus on us, it gives people that feeling, or at least that struggle, the struggle that Yaakov has with the Esav angel. The struggle that, okay, so maybe some people are, but I've met some others that are not. And that responsibility and the weight of that obligation and the weight of that encounter is an encounter that we don't take lightly, because every conversation and every relationship, and even though there are tons of people that will undermine and be dismissive and say bombastic, outrageous, crazy things, like, some of the things that some of you and I spoke about today, sharing some voice notes with some of you about some of the crazy things that are being said and people are doing and people are saying and acting. There's 2 choices, is either to wallow in our self-painful pity, or to take full responsibility for our own actions and create our own encounters. And by creating those own encounters, we can secure, at the very least, the struggle that people should have. Wow, look at that great guy. And look at that amazing woman. And look at that great family. and look at the polite children, and look how they say please and thank you, and how they're kind and generous, and how they're forgiving and graceful. And when there's that encounter, so it's true, it's the rose encounter, it's a teacher, it's a mentor, it's a, an influential person in your life and lives. I'm reading the book Rabbi David Trank's influence on his Talmidim. I know, Rav Chatzkel, you were a Talmud of David Trank, and the influence of a Rebbe on a student. But then there's an encounter of just things that are random chance encounters that literally change your lives and unknowingly change the lives of so many people. I have no idea the name of that judge. I so wish I did. And I have no idea where, what, how, when, but I'd like to believe somehow, somewhere, someplace, as unplanned as that encounter was, that encounter left something meaningfully indelible on her heart, and hopefully in the hearts of others, and transcribes the narrative of positive, of beautiful, of benevolence, of generosity, of kindness that the Jewish people are, in a way that like far super outweighs and supersedes the negativity. So that's our encounters. Those are some encounters. Of course, there's so many others. Who's going to be the first volunteer to share if you have some meaningful encounters or some experiences or anything else that's in your mind and on your heart you want to share around our Shabbos table, your Shabbos table? It looks like Tova. Did you just unmute?
Matthew unmuted for me.
Oh, that's chuck him right under the bus. Throw him under the bus.
No, so I actually had two things to share maybe, but one of them wasn't sort of an encounter, I guess, if that's our theme for tonight. There's a woman where I live who she's been suffering from dementia or Alzheimer's for a very long time now. And now she lives, her aides are always there and they always sit outside quietly on the bench. And for months now, I pass her and I always go, hi, and I say her name. And then the aide always waves, wonderful, wonderful, warm aide that she has, both of them actually, the morning and the night one. And we pass and go on our day. And then today, as I was passing, I walked the dog right past her. And I go, hi. And today she actually responded for the first time in a very, very long time. And for her to speak was a big deal. But it brought actually such joy to the aide who's with her every single day, waiting for her to say a response to somebody else. And it's just like a little thing of just saying hi to somebody every single day actually brought joy, not just to the person who said it back, because unfortunately she's not with it. She doesn't fully understand anything, but the person who takes care of her every single day. And even though, yes, she's paid for this position, it means a lot to her. It's a rewarding part of her job. And it was very nice to see that somebody on both aspects, she was so excited that she said hi. And on my side, to see that somebody cared so much. And because I said something that led to something else, that it brought such joy to somebody's day. So it's an amazing thing, just like little words, like saying hello to somebody can really change how somebody lives their lives and how their outcome of the week is.
And it was so easy. It's so easy to do. It's such a minimal investment of time, and it's such a long lasting, indelible reality. And that's why it's Yaakov and then it's Yisrael. Yisrael is Klal Yisrael. It's the Jewish people. Look how much you represent, knowingly or unknowingly, clearly, how intensely powerful and impactful that can be. How many people are like overlooked? The aides, the mailman, the behind the counter, the driver, the service person. It's just behind the counter. I remember there was a lady, all these JetBlue experiences, a lady that was checking us in like many, many years ago. I remember she was like behind the counter and she was like having the people in front of us were horrific. They were raunchy, obnoxious, grumpy, missed their breakfast, wrong side of the bread, you name it, whatever they needed, they had it, right? So this lady, her name's Dee, okay, her name's unimportant, but so by the time she got to us, she was just like, she sees this big family, lots of luggage, we're going to like LA, so she's like, I can't believe I have this job. Like, so I was like, and to make matters worse, we were like very, very late to the flight. There was some traffic. We couldn't get to the plane. I was like a little panicked. And we flashed like these smiles, and Jen put her sweet, sweet smile that literally melts like anybody and everybody she sees. She puts a smile on, and we were very kind and generous. And the kid said something nice. So she's like, it just made her day so much so, she got like there were lots of people behind us. She said, well, your flight is like leaving soon. I know, what am I gonna do? I didn't even have to pretend. Something affected her. She got out from the other side of the counter. She walks us through security, gives us this like this police escort-esque type of, walk to the gate, walks us all the way there, puts us there, tucks us into bed, gives us the proverbial kiss, gets us going. I'm like, wow, that's unbelievable. Why? And actually, I stayed in touch with her. A number of, we emailed back and forth, whatever. She sent me an email, I gave her my business card, whatever it was. So just, it's amazing how that one encounter could just make all the difference in the world. It cuts lines, but it's not the lines, it's that it cuts through the muck of the hearts that are sometimes crusted over and thinking that, who are these people? Like, who are these people? That's number one. Tova, did you have a number two?
Yeah, no. So there's another thing I wanted to add. This whole parsha is about two brothers, twins, who they have this animosity towards each other for, good reason, of course. But it reminds you though, as I guess as a parent, and I guess because I have twins also, and I have two boys on top of that, you look at your children and you go, oh my gosh, how do I make them? It reminds you when Shabbat comes. For us, I don't know what your house is like Friday night. I'm sure it's perfect, but for our house, it's crazy town. And, everybody, and whether or not, they're wonderful and they're excited, but it's been a long, long week for all of us, not just Matthew and I, and the kids are crazy and they're all excited. And, they're like, oh, there's soup, there's this, and they want to be up. And it's actually out of routine for our normal weekday nights because it's Friday night. So we have Shabbat meal together. We all sit together. And so, just looking at these brothers, we want to know, what do you do if your children ever are like ours at all, which of course they're not, to make yourself be like, okay, it's Shabbat. I'm going to, what is something that's going to make you be like, I need to remember, I have to be calm. The crazy week is gone, but you still have now your wonderful children that you do love, but they're throwing sticks in the air and making each other cry by accident because while they love each other, they're siblings.
And fighting with each other on who sits next to who.
Who's next to me? That's the big fight in my house.
Popular one. That's a popular one in our household also. That is a popular one. That's a great question. So how do you maintain the calm, the tranquility, the sanctity of Shabbos, the joy of everybody sitting together, and like when real life, kind of intersects with that, like, my matzo ball is not as big as her matzo ball, and
I feel like it's a Facebook post versus real life. Facebook is like the perfection of every family.
I like
and
that.
then like there's
not enough kiddush in my cup. If there's a smidgen less.
We're statisticians all of a sudden. The kids are like unbelievably vigilant. So
it's amazing, their eyesight.
Let's clarify one major misnomer here, right? Our kids are kids, and we have those same battles, and we struggle with those things like all of you and all of us do. And there's the intersect between, that plastic Facebook post that's like perfect, and the clash of that, the fighting fighting in front of people, and being human and being regular, and then also knowing to where to find that calm, where to find that tranquility. So I am going to
he's not
turn that over to our host tonight.
Okay.
One secret to your success.
Okay, I will say one secret that I think is very important. I think that older kids should have privileges over younger kids. And so I'm just addressing the sitting around the table thing, because I was just talking to my sister about this, and having kids that are similar ages. And I think when you give older kids privileges, like you get to sit next to Tati because you're the older one, and you get, I believe in that because I think it comes with responsibility. It comes with like you're held accountable for certain things, and with those privileges comes also responsibilities. And I think it's good for kids to feel that hierarchy. But I don't have twins.
So we actually have to make a chart every week that shows a Friday night, Shabbos lunch, and Shabbat party. Who sits next to mommy, who sits next to daddy, and who gets to sit by themselves.
So the problem we have, the hierarchy, is our oldest is only 2.5 years older than the other two, and one is only a minute older than the other one. So there's just
the 2.5 years is
through.
the 2.5 minute. That's rough.
And he'll remind her. So if we brought up that hierarchy, there'd be
You guys should have had 2 kids. It would have been much easier.
We just didn't think it out properly. We should have left one at the hospital.
One boy, one girl. You were like perfect, right?
But they were both cute and we're both, committed. So thank
so
God.
let me give you like one strategy that like I try to remind myself. So first of all, I think it goes without saying that there are huge elements in the world that try at best, as best they can, to throw us off kilter. They want us to be thrown offline. They want us to be out of equilibrium. They want us to be out of the spirituality and the joy of Shabbos. And sometimes that's, through the weekday manifest in areas A, B, or C. And sometimes Shabbos, it's manifest through our precious children. So I try to do like 2 things. I remind myself, number one, is that the mood that we set and the intensity of what we think to be right and want the environment to feel like we're in control. Even though, if you're going to use a basketball analogy, so if it's like, if we had 1 kid, it was 2 of us versus 1, like we had her solid, like she wasn't, and then it was we went to man-to-man defense when we had 2 kids. And then we had to go into a zone defense, right? How this one's for you, right? So that's like you might or not, right? So but the man
we skipped that. We went man to zone 1 to 3.
Right.
Right.
So you guys are an anomaly, for sure. But the idea then so it's us versus them, and you can never let the them be stronger than the us, right? So Jen and I are the not just because we're the parents, but we are the liberators of the mood. And if the second they enter into our sacred space, as hard and as frustrating, and we might decide to that old statement, like fake it till you make it. We might decide to just until we get to the room, like that was awful. What was that? So we have our decompression time, right? There's always like the drusha I give and the drusha I want to give, right? Or the drusha that I could have given. And so Jen will hear both of those drushas, right? So there's the decompression space that afterwards. But as parents, like you set the tone, and it's almost like you don't let it get to you as much as we try. You give children the space. You understand that they're children and they're doing what they're created to do. And little kids throw spaghetti and they make messes and they complain but at the end of the day, if you find simcha and peace and tranquility, they enter where there is a place to enter. They sense it. They sense where they're able to enter. If you keep that poise and that calm, and sometimes it's something very simple, like having just between the 2. If I lock eyes with my wife, when Jen and I are like we have that that energy that locks in between the 2 of us. It's like, okay, we got this. I got your back. You got my back. And I could see if she's feeling a little bit more flustered. And then I come as Superman to try to save the day, or vice versa, where it's like really, sometimes it's not that the kids want to sit next to me. They want to sit on me. So they're sitting on me while we're having soup and dips and all of that fun stuff. So it's really being locked in. It's realizing that your partner is not just your partner when things are easy and smooth. That these are like moments you could really enjoy your partner's assistance, sometimes when things are chaotic and crazy. I love sometimes those chaotic and crazy moments because they really give you a chance to rely on each other. I don't know, and to navigate a little bit of bumpiness a little bit along the way. What do you think?
What do we think? It's great. I mean, we agree, but I want to know, when you're singing Shalom Aleichem and there are 3 children screaming for other reasons, how much shalom is coming into the house?
How much shalom is there in Aleichem? So Jen has a friend who obviously will remain nameless, right? So her personality is super, and it's, very peaceful and tranquil. And I don't know, I just remember you telling me years ago about there was a kid that threw something over the balcony. Oh, was that the air conditioning you saw? Oh, that's okay, blah, 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 Shayna. Oh, is that your kid brother you just threw over? No problem. That's not how it rolls in our house, even though, right? Because children need discipline. Children need structure. Families need to lay down the law. Now, and it's a very delicate dance between, you know, when we sing Shalom Aleichem, my expectation is everybody singing Shalom Aleichem. Not as a drill sergeant, because I think that when you're able to demand, just remember that when you're able, the way and the place you're able to demand, when you're able to demand behavior, good behavior practices, you're able to demand that not in the moment. That doesn't happen in the moment. It happens before the moment. So if you smother your children with lots of love all the time, that's the measure that you're able to discipline them the same way. They don't feel threatened by your discipline. So when I stop, if everyone's talking and everyone's chattering and everyone's, fighting during Shalom Aleichem and figuring out which seat, and Eishes Chayil is like, I can have like a stern, serious face, expecting and demanding that either everybody's quiet and calm, or they have to sing, and that they have to deal with that later. And as we'll walk to the washing station, that will be your time to share with me, the People's Court. You guys remember the People's Court, Judge Judy? That the People's Court happens like in between Shalom Aleichem and washing. Oh, but and he said, and she said, and this, that, and all of that. So there's a time and there's a place, but your ability to be stern and expect, like, this is what we're doing now, and this is how we're doing it now, and there's no deviation. And sometimes you have to just like stop what you're doing until everybody's on board, because you're in charge. Not with stern roughness, but with expecting the children to be how you expect them to be. That is what I think is a combination of not only good parenting, but being organized and careful and conscientious with what you think is right. But again, last point, we'll go to the audience. What I think is, it doesn't happen in the moment. It happens before the moment. So it's filling them up with lots of love beforehand, and then being able to discipline them when they're able to discipline them. That's just that's my encounter, Shabbos table encounter. Hal, Talia, what would you like to share? Tell us about an encounter.
Well, first of all this child advice is too late for a lot of us already. Thanks a lot, but it's too late.
Our kids are okay. We're good.
Your kids are great.
Yeah.
Your kids are great. We love your kids.
Two quick
That
ones.
look very comfy. I'm sorry. You look very Are you outside?
We got our blankets on.
My God.
In the patio.
Love it.
I love it. That's awesome. I hang with you guys.
Speaking of outside, see, many years ago, I had a friend, this guy who worked at Falafel Armon. He was the owner. And we decided to throw a wedding in our backyard for him, for 150 people. And there was the Masada Kedushin under there.
This could go in so many directions.
It really could. It really could.
Falafel.
Who we never met before. And we started talking afterwards. His name was Rabbi Gibber. And here we are, because of that encounter on that night, sitting in Estancia West and members of the Boca Jewish Center with an incredible relationship because of that fate night. So that was not necessarily the encounter you were looking for. But
That's wild.
But I'll say that, in high school, I actually went to Hebrew Academy, Miami Beach. I went to Hillel Day School and Jewish upbringing. But, you wonder at that age how many kids really know what God is or actually truly believe in God or the presence of God. And then I went to Israel for a gap year. And before Rosh Hashanah, you're supposed to say on Har Zetim, you go and say Tehillim, which if you've ever been to Har Zetim, it's a dangerous area. You're supposed to stay together. And my senior year of high school, my principal died in a car accident as a young man with 5 kids and his wife was pregnant with the 6th.
Oh my.
And he was buried in Har Zetim. So I wanted to find his grave and pay my respect, but there's thousands and thousands of graves. I'm like, never going to find it. And we're about to pray. And I asked my buddy, come with me. And this is, maybe people think I'm exaggerating. I'm totally telling you exactly what happened. And it's all in sections. And I walked down 3 sections and I walked right up to his gravestone. Never knew where it was, at thousands and thousands. And I had no clue. And I walked right to it to pay respect. And I looked up and I said, thank you, God, because there was no other explanation. And I don't know in a life how many times you actually know that God just was right there and answered your prayers to put you there. But that was a changing moment. And I kind of said, okay, there really is a God, because there's no other explanation for this. And it was a changing moment for me. It was in a moment that I'll never forget. So that's mine.
That's an only in Israel story.
Yeah, I think it is. But my hair raises still from that story. You know,
Amazing.
that I encountered that.
That's unreal.
Sweetheart?
Well, the biggest encounter that completely changed my life 25 years ago, 8 years ago, because he's an Australian taking a junior year abroad to Israel, and never expected in my wildest dreams or my parents' wildest dreams that I would have this encounter.
I'm not paying her for this, by the way.
This encounter that would change the direction of my life, and actually you can say my parents' life, because they never thought they'd have to come back and forth to America to see their children and grandchildren and end up living the life that I have lived. So
Oh, come here, sweetheart.
I don't, yeah. Okay, they don't want to be nauseous. So that's one of the standout encounters that I'm going to share today.
I love
Beautiful.
it. I love it. I love it.
But when Hal said about meeting Rabbi and Jennifer at our house, that is truly.
We would
changing.
not be here
We would
today in
not.
this community if it wasn't for that night. Thanks you, Sagi.
Sagi.
So let me wind it back for just a minute, because I am beyond grateful for that encounter, just because of our incredibly close friendship. Right? I have a rabbinic colleague friend of mine who, when I was entering to the rabbinate, he said to me, the only worrisome advice that he wants to share with me, this is a rabbi of high regard and well respected and well known. So the only concerning advice is that it's very lonely in the rabbinate. It's very lonely. You're just you and your family. And I saw him years later at a wedding, and he said, it's lonely in the rabbinate. And I said, not my rabbinate. My rabbinate is not lonely. My rabbinate is like rich and close, and friendships that I have and relationships that we share are like beyond anything you could ever imagine. And the two of you are examples of why and how I feel that way so much. But I want to wind that back a minute, because, you talk about that encounter, but there's something that happened before that encounter, actually, that brought about the encounter. Like, and I think if today, I'm hearing about just different people in the 5 towns or in Queens, in areas mostly, I think in LA, we have cousins in LA that are doing it. If you have a property that allows for, dating to go on, you have shidduchim dates, right? A guy and a gal, where are they going to go? It's Corona. There's no place for them to go. So I know a number of people that they've given their backyards to, young men, young women that want to date, because they could just, and there are shidduchim, there are matches that are made in people's backyards. See, I'm nosy, so I would be like binoculars, like watching this date. I would. I'd be like really pumped about that. But it takes incredibly special people to open up their backyards to do that. And the backstory, the rewind of the story of our encounter is that, like, here's a guy, Sagi, who I love, we all love, we miss him. He has like one of the few food establishments in Boca. Now there's like, I don't know, too many to even count. Falafel. By the way, it wasn't always falafel Armon. It was.
No.
Then it became
Pizza.
What was it recently?
Pizza
No,
Plus?
Falafel Armon
was
was
the
the original,
original.
because he has one in Israel when he grew up.
So what was it here? What was it here?
It was Falafel Armon. That's what it was originally.
No.
Afterwards?
Pizza something.
When he owned
No,
it.
falafel Armon.
Falafel Armon? Yeah. So okay, so he's engaged, he's getting married, and he knows that there's this amazing family, this incredible couple that, I mean,
That love falafel.
right, that they love falafel. They do love falafel. They don't love falafel. Basketball game, go to falafel, drop the guy off on the side who's, I don't know,
Let's not go
he
there.
got a little nauseous on the way to the ride. Let's go. Let's leave that. But that's for another time. But you just jumped over real quick. You leapfrogged. Oh yeah, we had a wedding in our backyard. Yeah, and this wedding was there, right? Very special people give their backyards for people to have weddings in their backyard. That's like right before I even met, interacted with you, it was an encounter that I wanted to have, because what people have a wedding. Now, you were good friends, but there's good friends and then there's like good friends. He's a good friend, but the fact of the matter is that special people, and only special people, have weddings in their backyards. And so like, that's, to me, that chesed, that kindness brought it, that you are part of the community and you're sitting in your back patio, your back patio, that's full circle, right? Back patio, Estancia South, Boca Jewish Center. It's not because of me and because of you, it's because we're on calendar, it's because of you and your chesed. And when you show chesed to people, when you show loving kindness to people, forget about it. Your whole life has changed. Your whole life has changed. Every relationship is different. Every encounter is like a spin-off off of that, off of that, off of that, off of that, which is just, it's glorious. So I don't want to just bypass that huge part of it, which is the part of it, which is the most important part of it, which is who makes weddings in their backyards? Only the righteous, only the tzaddikim, only the special. Only the special.
And our backyard is available for the right price now for rent.
Who's making a wedding? Who's making a bris? Who's making a bar mitzvah?
Does Jane have a comment, or does she want to make a wedding in your backyard?
Okay, anytime, Jenny. For you, of
That's
course.
great. That's great. That's great. Chatzkel, I feel like I don't like to put you on the spot, so I'm not going to put you on the spot. But if I was going to put you on the spot and you were going to tell us about an encounter, not that I'm going to, because I'm not going to. I was just thinking though, but I probably wouldn't. But in case I did, is there an encounter that like changed, shaped your life, that you had, that you have, that you could share with us? But I'm not sure.
First of all, I have to tell the Hachamens a piece of advice. My grandfather, Oliver Shalom, said a very smart thing. Grandchildren are your reward for not killing your own.
Can we start the countdown clock now?
And eventually they get married and move out.
That's so great.
Okay, sorry, Rabbi. I've been thinking the whole time because you asked us to prompt it. So I will be very brief, very quickly. 3 different points in my life. We'll do it very quickly. In 4th grade, Rabbi Brody, Zechron Levracha, we were learning Parshas Mishpatim. And he said, I want the best boys in the class to memorize this Rashi. Ratzah Adonav Azno Bar Marseya. It's one of the longest Rashis in all of the Torah. Suffice it to say, I was not from the best boys in the class.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that.
But when a rabbi puts out a statement like that, not only did I memorize that Rashi then, but it's the only Rashi in the entire Chumash that I still know by heart till today. I say that to you is because that push from that rabbi, that challenge, has been a clarion call for me my entire life. That's an encounter in the 4th grade. Number 2, when I was 15 years old, I went to Eretz Yisrael for the first time. Suffice it to say, I should not have gone that summer because I was not prepared to go to Eretz Yisrael. I might as well have gone to Aruba or Tahiti or anywhere else. But I came back to Eretz Yisrael at the age of 30, the 2nd time in my life. A married man with 2 children with my grandfather, Zechron Levracha, who was very ill, and I took him to Eretz Yisrael, begged him to take me. It's a very emotional trip. But that first encounter with the Kosel, 15 years later, leaving Eretz Yisrael as a 15-year-old boy, a wild Vildachaya, coming back to Eretz Yisrael at the age of 30, married with children, was an incredible, life-altering, game-changing experience for me that I believe has carried me through the next 15 years. 3, around maybe a year or so later, maybe a few years later, on 9/11, when the building was falling and I didn't know it was a building, I just knew something was falling. I actually thought it was an airplane because they had told us, I was down on 9/11 working for Hatzalah, and they told us that another airplane was coming. We didn't know. All we heard was this whoosh of that black cloud that everyone speaks of. So I ran for my life. I ran for my life and my children. And when everything got quiet, it was complete choshech, darkness, blackness. I remember going outside of the building. It's not important where I was. It's a long story. It's not for now. And I looked up at complete vastness, exactly what the Torah would say. Choshech, nothing, blackness. All you heard in the back was car sirens. That's all you heard. And I looked up and it was black. I thought a building had fallen on top of us. I looked up and I said, Hashem, I'm in trouble. I need your help now. Those are three things that are life-altering encounters for me in my own personal life. It's the same Hashem. Everyone who's listening to the story, including Rabbi Gibber, and his Rebbetzin are fantastic. I'm too tired. I can't believe I stuck it through all the way here. I'm so riveted to the conversation. The fact remains that the same Hashem that answered every one of my 3 different calls is the same Hashem that answers all of yours.
Wow. Amazing.
Amazing, Chatzkel. Wow. So inspiring.
Unprepared,
Unprepared.
on the spot.
Can't believe it's not.
But you're always prepared. Everybody knows we can rely on you to always be prepared.
I think I should pay you guys. That was very therapeutic.
You inspired us so very much. Wow, what an amazing and meaningful conversation tonight. So wonderful to share this time with all of you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being together. And as much and as reluctant as we are to end our program tonight, so our children who should be in bed, who are not in bed, well, we got to go put them to bed. We got to give you a chance to prepare for Shabbos. But again, it has been an amazing, wonderful opportunity to be together, to see you. We wish you a wonderful rest of your Erev Shabbos and a beautiful Shabbos. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining. Be healthy, be safe, be happy, be holy, be well. Love from us to you. Shabbos.
Thank you.
Shabbos, Yeshkoyach.